Yes, hello guys, welcome to another video. Today we're going to be talking about continuation of the definition of the FIFA, the RSTP, and then we're going to be looking into more deeps the definitions as we started yesterday. So we're going to continue from the from where we stopped last time, and then but we're going to be going more into details also. So I think most of you guys, if you didn't watch the last video, you can just go and follow up, then you continue with this video. It's much easier that way. So as you can see, the thing is past the FIFA. The topic is past the FIFA Agent Exam, and TP some. Today we did the RST, so still RSTP will continue with a little bit of few ideas of this definition. Then before we start also going into more details with in the next studies. So as I said last time, these are just few key points that when you're writing the exam, at least you should get a little bit of knowledge about it, so that when you come on the exam days, you can already be used to this word. As I said, they always certain terminology that they use, certain words that they use that you have to be aware of. For example, if they use what is a transfer market, you should already know what they are talking about. ITC, international transfer certificate, because they might put ITC. So all those little bit of terminology you should be aware of, so that at least you don't waste your time trying to think what is this. So that's the key idea of me trying to give you people this lecture, so that I hope I'm okay here, so that you try to master it and it goes fluently. Anyways, today we're going to be talking about, we continue coach. Who's a coach? A coach is someone who is employed by a professional club. In this, of course, a coach is employed by a professional and amateur club. But a coach employed by a professional club, his duties must include training of players, selecting of players, and making tactical decisions during matches. And he's paid for the job as a coach. Okay, so this is the key info there. So, and then the next is a professional club. A professional club is a club that is not purely an amateur club and operates under professional contractual framework. So, and it pays players for its salaries. So that's a professional club. So I think most people who have been into football know about this. But as I said, the FIFA exam is more also about your individual, the exam that was said, and also more about your individual know-how, certain things that you can be aware of. So these are the things I said you have to just keep an eye on, so that you get used to the ideas. Okay, so the next thing we look at is maternity leave. Maternity leave, a minimum 14 weeks paid leave for a female player or a coach. At least 8 weeks must be taken after birth. So those are the conditions of maternity leave. So this shows FIFA protection of contractual stabilities to women's football rights from women. So as you see from here, maternity leave is a period of 14 weeks paid leave for a female player or a coach. Okay, and then also they say it might also be, not might be, at least 8 weeks must be taken after birth. So these are questions that they can ask you that about female player. And the key information here, it is mandatory minimum protection for female football players. So this is strictly mandatory. Okay. And then the next thing here we'll look at also family leave. What is family leave? Family leave is a minimum of 8 weeks paid leave granted also to female players, coaches, female player or coaches. Okay, must be taken within 6 months of birth. Cannot be combined with adoption leave for the same child. So this is family leave. And then key information here, the time limit, remember 6 months. Okay. So moving ahead, we have adaptation leave. So this adaptation leave, just a moment. So adaptation, what's adaptation leave? It's a period of 8 weeks paid leave with child with a child under 2 years, 4 weeks with a child under 2 to 4 years, 2 weeks with a child under older than four. This must be taken within 6 months of formal adaptation. Cannot be combined with any family leave. Okay. So key information here in this part is leave duration decreases based on child's age. So you have to remember that. So those are key little bit of information that you have to have an idea of, and then it helps you also when you're writing the exam. So the next one, we are looking for a club trained player. So who is a club trained? Who is a club trained player? A club trained player is someone who has been trained between the age of 15 to 12. So registered and also registered with the current club, registered with the current club for an entire season or 36 months. So three entire season is one season is like they just put it like 12 months, 12 months, 12 months. So it becomes 36 months, which is 3 years, and can be continuous or non-continuous. But these are the this is what characterize what we call a trained player. But in this case, remember, nationality doesn't matter. It can be someone from Uruguay, Paraguay comes, and if he stays and he meets all these characteristics, then he's a trained player of the club. So this information, this definition is important in squad registration rules. Guys, it's almost like sometimes when someone, I think this happened. I'll give an example. Alejandro Garnacho, he plays for Manchester United. This used to happen in the case that, for example, a player comes to your club. Like right now, when a player, like in the situation of Garnacho, they had to sell him. He came from Argentina. He's an Argentina, came to the academy of Manchester United, and then had to play from the academy to the first team. So because he stayed there for long, he's like a trained player. Had it been he came just for 1 year and came like just for 1 year and moved into the first team, he wouldn't be considered a trained player. So you understand? So this also matters a lot because this also helps. In the case of he was in the case of Alejandro Garnacho, he helped Man United when they sold him, or it was full profit for the club. So these are little bits of things that you can have an idea of. Then it helps you also as an agent. And then we talk of trials. So trial is, of course, is a period that you go for. We always call it. I will just explain this locally for a test match to see whether you're good or not before you sign for a club. But the thing is that now, because most people don't know the rules of trials, it's always exploited. Most clubs exploit players. So when people go for trials, someone you can be there for 3 months, 4, 5, 3 months or so long, and then the people, because they know there's no rules for it, they just decide on their time because clubs, they are also always looking out for their interests. So let's take for example what clubs do is, let's take for example, in January they invite you for trials, you keep training. February they say nothing. March they say nothing. Probably maybe let's say the league is starting in April for as is in Finland. In March they expect that okay, when they get a lot of players, then they can make a decision on you. So because they don't want to make any decision because they have no players, but then now in March when they have more players, they make a decision now based on you and say, okay, please, we will not be taking you. Whereas you have trained for that club for more than 2 months, you have trained with the club for more than 2 months, which someone knowing the rules and regulation. If you have an agent, the agent will say, hey, this is the maximum duration my client will be with you for trials. So you let me know what is your verdict, so that this also you don't give the club doesn't have time to just use you on their own interest. When they have enough players, they tell you, okay, you will not be fitting into that plan. Then before now, Now, when you leave, you're under pressure to look for a club before the season starts. So most players face this, but the thing is because they have no agents and they have no one giving them telling them what to do. Normally, when you go for trials, if you have an agent, then this is always very good that it helps you, it backs you up. Okay, and then and just an important note: for trials, the player must be registered. The player must be registered. If not, trial must end here. Um, no, the player just importantly, the player must after 8 weeks, let's say the maximum. If the player is not registered, then the trial needs to end. So let's take for example, I had to give people the keynotes. A trial is a maximum 8 weeks. It's maximum 8 weeks. If after the 8 weeks the club doesn't say anything, you don't need to be there anymore. And for an amateur, I mean for a minor, it's also different from a professional from an overage player. FIFA clearinghouse. So what is FIFA clearing? FIFA clearinghouse acts as an intermediary for certain transfer payment, not for transfer payment. So let's take for example, when you pay anything, it passes through. So let's for it through the FIFA clearinghouse. Let's take for example training compensation and solidarity mechanism. The reason it passes through clearinghouse so that FIFA can regulate this, so that they see there's no fraud or anything, because before. Uh, if they say that this club has to pay compensation to this club for training a young player, the system wasn't that clear and smooth that there was a lot of on and off movement. But now, let's take for example the way training compensation is paid is if you are owing a club, if a player is sold or if any transfer happens, then you have to pay the formative club a training compensation. What happens is that training compensation passes through FIFA clearinghouse where FIFA has to see and regulate it before going to that club. So you don't just take that money and pay it directly to the club. It passes through FIFA clearinghouse where FIFA can see that okay, yeah, everything is easy and clear. No one, there's no cheating or no one is not getting his or her money yet. So it has to happen like that. An electronic player passport. So electronic player passport contains a full registration history of a player from the calendar year of 12 of his 12th birthday. These include an amateur player, a professional player, loan player, all training categories of clubs. So all what he has been doing. So this uh, this is what it carries, electronic player passports. So this is used mainly for registration and the player stats so that when you can see everything about the player. Okay, I hope you guys are understanding. Then we talk of transfer compensation. This is payment made by a new club to a former club. So in exchange of releasing a player from binding contract. Very important distinction, compensation for breach under Article 17. This we're going to break it down a little bit more into details also when we look at the FIFA agent exam when we're handling a lot of these issues. Then we have TMS, that's transfer matching system. So this is where both clubs enter transfer data, basic information, basic info, matches, payment details, or loan dates, transfer. So all those things comes here and FIFA sees it. So let's take for example, if you transfer, if a player leaves from Feyenoord to PSV or Feyenoord to England, Manchester United, those things enter the transfer matching system that you see all the information of the player and all the stats of where the player left and where the player is going, all the association that he has passed under. This helps also reduce any risk of, so it helps, gives information of what the player has been doing, any information about the player, so that there is not misinterpretation of data or info. Everything is clean and clear. And here, individuals are trained to use this to help people use this. And then now we'll talk of competition period. What is competition period? Competition period is start when the league starts with cup games and everything. It's just as normal. Let me say when the season starts. Let me put it in a local term, when the season starts. Okay. And then, so I'm not going to boil into that too much because I think most people know that status of players. Status of player is like whether you're amateur or professional. So professional player is someone who has a written contract and is being paid for that job, playing football. That's a professional player. And then the next we call reacquisition of amateur status. So let's take for example, if you're a professional player and then you want to go, let's say you say no, you want to go to an amateur club, you must wait 30 days after your last professional match. Do you understand what I mean? So let's take for example, you played professional and then you say no, you don't want to play professional. You want to start playing amateur level. So you must wait 30 days after minimum. That's minimum after your last professional match. No compensation is needed. But important notice is here is if the player becomes let me say the player went amateur, if he becomes a professional again within 30 months, then the new club must pay training compensation. Okay. The next thing we look at termination of activity. That's after retirement, player remains registered during 30 months, starts from last official match. So so after retirement, if a player, let me say, if you're registered after 30, let me say after 30 months, the duration is after 30 months. And then the next one we'll look at registration rules. Player must be electronically registered. That is normal because must have a FIFA ID. I think we spoke about this yesterday. Only registered players may play official matches or will play official matches. You cannot be on loan. I mean, you cannot be on trials and playing official matches. It's not possible because if you're caught, you'll be fine. I know some clubs do that, like in Cyprus or other places. Permit me if I say Cyprus because I heard some players saying this, but this happened to most places, not only Cyprus. But if you're caught by FIFA that you're on trials and then a club is using you to play official match, that's a big problem. So don't try that. And then there's one thing called the three club rule. Maximum three registration in one season. Can only play official matches for two clubs. Yes. So this is we will also talk about deep in uh, when we are explaining talking about the exam situation or the studying the exam course that I'm bringing is coming up. So let's take for example a player. It's like you have player who I give an example of a big club. Manchester United loan Jadon Sancho to Aston Villa. Then then Aston Villa got Jadon Sancho. Discovered that this Sancho is not good. So in January, when the transfer window opens, they loan him back to Burnley. They loan him back to Burnley. Or not, they don't loan him. I mean, they he goes back to Manchester United because Aston Villa cannot loan him. They don't have the right. It's only man is a player. Is a player contracted under Manchester United. So only United can make that move. So United loan him back to another club from January because he's not getting, for example, let's say he's not getting playing time at Villa. They loan him back to, let's take for example, Southampton, and then he goes to Southampton. But in those, you must play only two matches. So he played for Manchester United already at the beginning of the season. He cannot play. So can only play two official matches. But in the case of him playing three official matches, uh, this can be when he moves to a season, let me say a league that has that overlaps with the Premier League. Let's take for example, the Premier League is finished, then he moves to America, then the season is still going on. So within that entire year, calendar year, he can play three matches. So This you have to understand. These kind of questions always come. So this you have to understand also a little bit, because they can ask how many matches can a player play in a particular season. So it's like 2 matches. They will say, but they can give question A 2 matches. Uh, B they say 3 matches with an exception that there's an overlapping season somewhere. So that is where you can it can be that yes, it's an exception. Okay, then we talk of next one is bridge transfer. What is bridge transfer? This bridge transfer is two consecutive transfer happening within 16 weeks. So I'm going to explain this. So let's take for example, uh, I take a player from Barcelona to Real Madrid in the January transfer. No, let's say in the June, July, August transfer, when the transfer window open, June, July, August. The player leaves Barcelona in June and goes to Madrid. As he arrives Madrid, within 2 weeks, he's leaving to Atletico Madrid, or within 1 month, he leaves to Atletico Madrid for another. So that's what we call bridge transfer, a transfer that have happened, two consecutive transfer that happen within the period of 16 weeks. So thereby, yeah, most of the time when this happen, it shows that the two clubs, not the middle club, the two clubs, let me say Barcelona, who transferred the player to Real Madrid, and the player moved from Real Madrid to Atletico Madrid. So Barcelona and Atletico Madrid have are playing, let me say, they are trying to bypass a rule not to pay money. They are trying to bypass the FIFA rule not to pay money to the training compensation or a compensation to a club. So this is usually the case where people are trying to sneak behind and not pay compensation. So in this case, it's always FIFA always steps in and fine Barcelona and Atletico Madrid, the two clubs, fine them for their involvement in this with high fines. And in certain cases, you will get a one window or one transfer ban, with one window of transfer ban, which means the general window can open and you don't sell or sign player, you don't have anything to do in the market. So these are the rules that people you have to be aware of as an agent to be able to advise other people, let's say sporting director, because most of the time, because I'm always on LinkedIn, you do get advice from, you do get questions from, or few tips or conversation from sporting director that what is this about? Do you have an idea of this? Because probably they might have been dealing with an agent and they are not too sure of whether this agent want to play one over them. So he just pops with a message. What do you think about this? Can you give me a few information? Or do you know where I can find information about this? Then probably I can pull on an article and say, okay, just this is, you can read more about this from here. So that's why it's always good to know the rules, because it helps you a lot. So let's see, the next thing we are seeing here is okay, contractual stability. Well, not to go deep into it, but I'm just going to touch on the point here. Contractual stability, contract must be respected for sure. Termination with just cause is allowed. Sporting just cause for professionals. So when I said so contract must be respected, let me go a little bit deep. This Article 13, contract must be respected. What do I mean by that? Contract must be respected by means you cannot breach the contract unless there's something that really happened badly. Termination of contract with just cause is allowed. That's the next, which means if you feel the one party has breached the rules and regulation, then you are allowed to terminate the contract because certain things have gone wrong. That is what we call just cause allowed to them. Then sporting just cause for professional termination of sporting just cause. This is something like, let's take, I'm going to give an example. Let's take, for example, you sign a player in your team and the player plays less than 10% of the games of a game in entire season. Normally, the player is allowed to terminate that contract for sporting just cause because it shows that initially you didn't need the player. So these are things that happen, but I think most agents or most clubs don't use this one, or they are not aware of this. But I think they're aware, or probably they try to find a way around it, that when they discover that a player is playing less, they put him for 2 minutes here and then they remove him back. They put him for 5 minutes here and then they move him back, remove him. So because if you just go into the field and play, whether it is 3 minutes or just an injury time, they'll say, okay, you have played more than 10% of the game. Because the fact that you played just 1 minute of a game, it already shows you have played that game. So most what teams do is they bring you, and in the 90th minute, they take you on. You spend a minute and the time is finished. So that they try to beat that mark of that uh, playing less than 10% of the game. No termination of contract during competition period. Of course, yes, this is normal, but if something happens, then you can always revisit. Okay, so those were a little bit of tips that I gave today on the this. All these things are on the RSTP. Just a little bit of touching that I've touched them, that you should have an idea of this, and then tomorrow I'll be trying to come back again to some of the informations, so that at least I can just give you guys highlights on this before April, when I'm starting the course, when I'll be more giving structural approach. I'll just be focusing on exam oriented. So I'll be giving you just a structure how the exam is set, because the exam is more structural. So as I always tell people, to pass the exam, you must know certain parts very well. It's a structural exam. You must know that, okay, the exam majority question comes here, majority question comes here, but I still need to focus on this part, because on this other parts, because I'll have 2 to 3 or 4 questions there. So that's how you try to manage to pass the exam. Okay, without wasting more of your time, I will leave you people today now, because at least how many, that's 27 minutes, so I should be going now to start doing other things. But any questions or any things that you have, you can always leave the information. And I'll get back to you on the comment section. Okay. So it was nice giving this information to you people. So tomorrow, I hope I can be here again with you people, just to continue on the RSTP, because I think we're almost done with the definition part. Then I can start entering into a little bit of details part, just explaining few things with you people, so that you keep gaining the ideas and a little bit of tips about RSTP. We're going to do RSTP. I think I'll speed it up a little bit so that we can do RSTP. We do the most of the, like, FIFA statutes, most of the places that key some few things that you need to know, so that when we get into the course I am teaching, then I will not need to tell people a lot of things. I will just focus more on the structural approach. And just to come back into what I always say, is that the exam is a structural. When you go into the exam, it's based there. You expect that you have some pressure, but if you approach it with a structural approach, like, let's take for example, you already have in your brain that, okay, this exam is 60 minutes, and in this 60 minutes, they had 20 multiple questions, and in that 20 multiple question, each question takes 3 minutes. You cannot take more than 3 minutes on a question, because you're already taking time from another question. So when you have this at the back of your mind, when you enter, you are locked in, just ready to perform, because that 60 minutes is it's only 60 minutes you have in a year. Now it's just once a year. So that 60 minutes, after that 60 minutes, when the exam finishes, bam, the next time you are expecting to be there to write another exam is after 1 year. And after 1 year, you might not be in a good mood or not good mood. You might be sick or whatever. You might not be in the place to write that exam again. So treat it as like your all and all, because once you get that license, you have gotten it protected a lot. It's like I have the license now, but what I do try to protect my license in a way that anybody who contact me that he wants to work with me through LinkedIn or whatever, because I'm always on LinkedIn, that wants to work with me, I try to screen that person a lot to even try to do anything with a person, because I know that with a license, I can do whatever I want. I can go to any place. I can approach a lot of clubs with my idea, my networking strategy. I can meet any kind of sporting director. Yes, last time, as I said, last time I was in Norway, I was in Denmark. I go to different places, meeting sporting director, interviewing CEOs. But all this happened just because of the license. Because when I sit when I sit interviewing CEOs, the idea that I have, they gain a lot of knowledge from me. But this only came because of me reading and studying the materials, because and also knowing that I have the license. Because without the license, how do I break? What do I tell them that I want to negotiate a player? Because you cannot negotiate on a player when you don't have the license. Your signature cannot be there. But the first thing, if they ask you about your FIFA ID, where do you have the ID from? Or your FIFA agent number? You don't. So these are the key things that I always say: try to protect your license. Not anybody you when you have the license, not anybody you have to work with. People might look at you like selfish, as if you're selfish or whatsoever, but you cannot mess around it, because there are a lot of people that get their license and they get banned for 2 years. I mean, the license gets suspended for 2 years and whatsoever. You cannot make that mistake, because once your license start getting banned, 2 years without operating, and then people discover that maybe this person is an agent who is not clean. It in this industry, if someone knows you're an agency who is not clean, that is the most difficult thing, because it seems that you have no license, because no one will want to work with you. So these are just a little bit of tips that I try to give you people, but learn to protect your license. That's the thing that I would say. Yeah, learn to protect your license. Okay, but anyways, that's it for today. Talk to you another time, and see you. Take care and bye for now. Okay.